On this edition of Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft, we're going to take a look at key young pro players from the AFC West and NFC West depth charts to help you get ready for free agency and the NFL Draft. As Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft with Dan Shanka on the Ourlads Football Radio Network starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, February 28th, 2018. I'm Greg DePalma. You're listening to Ourlads Football Radio Network with Ourlads GM and National Scout Dan Shanka, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. And Dan, the Combine is underway and measurements going through, so it's a ticking clock now over the next several days, the next week or so, and we're finally going to get in that last bit of information that you need to make those final observations and that final analysis and grade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you getting the verified information on these guys and then finding out because some of the stuff doesn't get leaked out, but sooner or later about injuries and things like that, hopefully nobody's got, spinal stenosis or something like that, that will knock them out of it, but hey, you got to know that. And then you go accordingly and put the guy on the sideboard and you head on to your next guy. So, but that's what the Combine's all about, really, the physicals and the interviews. And then, you hear the buzz about different interviews, and we've got guys on site over there doing things that, they'll let us know. But, we had a guy right in line. Remember the Reuben Foster fiasco?
Yes.
A year ago or so, and he was a pain in the ass, and it turns out that that's what he is.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean?
That's right.
And that's what we said. We had that all covered, and and now he's been a pain in the rear out there. So, I mean, how much can you take? So it's just, but you kind of pick up those things and all that. So, but anyway, hey, there's all kinds of stuff going on now, free agency and the new league year coming up, and guys getting cut and guys getting released and guys getting, cap casualties, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to be a fan right now. You get an opportunity to hear about things you've been probably expecting, whether it's a Muhammad Wilkerson getting cut or some maybe that you don't expect, and that's going to happen. There are going to be moves that are going to be made, players that are going to be cut that will come out of left field and things of that nature, or maybe even players that are going to get signed that are already available, like Vontae Davis going to Buffalo. I think they're taking a little bit of a chance there. I know he was injured last year, so I think they gave him $5 million. Was it $5 million guaranteed that I heard? Maybe something like that. So,
yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
That's something they're going to roll the dice with and hope that he's okay. He's getting up there in age. But, these are the things. Not a lot of those players, though, are available out on the street right now that you can sign before free agency officially starts in a few weeks. But let's go ahead and talk about the AFC West and the NFC West today. And what we're going to do is something a little bit different than we've done the last few years, and that is we're going to take a look at some key players for all these teams and how it might impact free agency in the draft, guys that have been drafted the last several years, or just other players that might be notable young players or players not with a lot of experience that, again, can come into play with deciding on what to do with specific holes on their depth chart. So let's go ahead and start in the AFC. Let's first of all, we'll go in alphabetical order in the AFC with the Denver Broncos first. And I guess, you know what? I'll start right at the top with Paxton Lynch. Does it surprise you that I don't think so. I know what we talked about a few years ago. Does it surprise you that Paxton Lynch is struggling so much?
No, not really. Like I said, the way it looks, I guess I should have left Dak Prescott in my mock draft going to Denver the first round, because, it bothered me, Lynch back then. And obviously it's kind of reared up out in Denver that, here's a really angular guy that's got some athletic ability, but boy, he's constantly hurt because of that length and everything. And so now they got two of the tallest quarterbacks that can't play in the NFL, and Osweiler and Lynch.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you get these big quarterbacks with high completion percentages in college, but that doesn't always translate to the NFL, which is why it's more than just a stat game. But yeah, Paxton Lynch, that's why the Denver Broncos are going to have another starting quarterback. It could be Kirk Cousins. Who knows? It could be Case Keenum. He's going to be available. So Denver definitely looking for a quarterback. And that's something that, I mean, if you're Denver right now and you take a look at their roster, what would you do? I mean, Elway's done a very good job with his front office in free agency, getting players from other teams to fit into roles. And the last quarterback he got, the big quarterback he got, made a difference. I mean, even though he didn't have his greatest year when he won the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning, as opposed to going out and drafting, which they haven't done a good job. They have not been a good drafting team the last few years, or even over John Elway's career. So because of that, do you trust them more to go out and get a free agent?
Well, I think that the thing is about free agency, I mean, you can see what a guy does in the NFL. And the toughest thing about the college draft is you don't know how these guys are going to play with the big boys, you know? Yep. And so free agents, it's just like, to me, I mean, there's the pro scouts that are inside it. All they do in the office is study the pro league. Okay. That's all they do. And it's easy to me. I mean, that's the easiest job to me in scouting because you're comparing apples to apples.
Sure.
Also, if you're comparing your offensive scheme, you're looking at a player that played in that scheme the same way defense. And that guy playing so, I mean, it's easy. Okay. Now, the toughest part is projecting these college players coming out. And it's even harder now because of the diversity that they're playing with on offense. I mean, like your offensive linemen stand up most of the time. They're not coming off the ball in the run game. They're screening people off. Tight ends are flexed out. Running backs, you might have one running back now in the backfield and you got another guy a slot or an H-back. And, so, I mean, there's just so many things that, you really got to look at a guy and see if you can project him. And, but, I don't, Elway, I know it takes a little bit of a beating at times, but, it's not because he hasn't tried to get those guys right. It's just, hey, some just fall apart. They've done a good job in the secondary. They've got some really good secondary guys they drafted. The linebackers, they've shown some good linebackers there. But where they've really struggled there, and they've tried to get it right, is the offensive line. But, man alive, I don't know. Sometimes some teams just have bad luck different places. Like, remember for a long time, Atlanta had bad luck in secondary people. The Giants, they have terrible luck in the secondary. They worked hard to build up that secondary for years and years and years, and all they do is get injuries and, guys that can't play. So, I mean, sometimes it's just a lot of bad luck, and you kind of got to get things, you try to get it cleaned up.
What do you think about this? Speaking of their offensive line, what about Connor McGovern? He did start the last 5 games of the season last year. He was a 5th-round pick in 2016 out of Missouri. You actually thought that he had, could have been a 3rd or a 4th-round pick, so you actually, graded him a little bit higher than where he went. He does have ability to be somebody that they might be able to count on next year and in the next few years, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now, you look at their free agents. Stevenson's going to be an unrestricted guy. Barbary is going to be an unrestricted guy. Billy Turner is going to be unrestricted. So, yeah, they're going to want, somebody come in. And, I tell you what, I might have missed on Paradise because I thought he was a free agent coming out. He's been starting the last couple of years. He's a small guy. And, but he's, maybe he's going to end up. Now I understand Leary might move over to the left guard position, and maybe Garcia will compete with McGovern at right. But I guess that remains to be seen. They got a new offensive line coach in there, so Sean Kugler, he was head coach at UTEP. He's the offensive line coach now, so we'll just have to see what he does.
All right. Now, as far as the running game, this is also something. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they wanted to save some money because they are looking for money, Denver, to go out and get some free agents or who knows, maybe even grab a quarterback like a Kirk Cousins, which has been rumored. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually let C.J. Anderson go. They could save a little money there on the cap. They have a couple of young running backs on the roster right now. Devontae Booker looked a little bit better last year, late in the year when he got some touches. And last year's sixth-round pick, D'Angelo Henderson, I mean, I like the makeup of this kid. I wouldn't be surprised if this kid actually got a lot of snaps next year.
No, I mean, hey, he sure flashed in college, and he did some good things in his limited time, playing at Denver. So, yeah, no, I agree. I think that, he's got – and then, hey, if nothing else, like I said, this draft here is loaded with running backs. So, and starters. Now, Booker, the thing about him, he's got skills, but he just can't hold on to the ball, or he's a turnover machine, which is kind of amusing to me, how everybody places another turnover machine, number one, going to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's just amusing to me that and if Browns take them, it'd be even worse. But anyway, that's Sam Darnold, by the way, for people who don't know that he got 37 turnovers in 26 college games.
Yeah, I don't know about him going number one, but you never know. Let's see. What about the receivers? You've got a couple of guys of note. Carlos Henderson was a third-round pick last year. He didn't get any significant time. And Corey Latimer, I think, is somebody interesting because he was a second-round pick in 2014, and it really took him until last year. He was hurt a little bit, and then after his injury, he really started to play better after that. And I think that's a receiver that might, especially with the talk of maybe getting rid of Sanders, getting rid of Thomas because of cap restraints and so forth, that if they went ahead and did that, then I could see them bringing Latimer back. Maybe he's finally starting to pick things up. What did you think about him coming out of college in 2014?
Well, the thing, I liked him, but, the thing is, at Indiana, he had one big year. And, and then he was injured and he couldn't go through the combine doing different stuff. And so then, that's what's hurt him at Denver, really. He's been injured off and on, didn't get on the field, as a rookie. And it was just like one injury after another. So, that was a sticky wicket with him.
All right. Now, Jake Butt is another rookie from last year to keep an eye on because we have no idea how healthy he's going to be. But if he's healthy, then all of a sudden the patience and grabbing him in the fifth round last year is going to pay off for Denver because how good he was in college before the injury.
Right. Now, he's see, what you got there because he played in a pro-style offense. And I think all understanding I have, he's back to 100%. So now it gets into the in the OTAs and things like that, learning the offense more than he has and stuff. And so I think that that'd be a definite asset because, at worst, he's probably a second-round guy last year. They got him in the fifth round.
All right, on defense, DeMarcus Walker is a player we talked a lot about last year from Florida State, a tweener type. Exactly where would he fit in? Made a ton of plays with the Seminoles. We talked about his size and how that could affect him at the next level. And then I think what happened was Denver tried him at linebacker during camp. And it was completely miscast in that position. So they're putting him back at the defensive line position. I'm sure that's where he's going to play during camp this year. It wouldn't be a surprise if he actually started becoming a player they could rely on now that he concentrates at a position where he really should have been all along, up front instead of at linebacker.
Yeah, I think that, that he could go up and to me, he was always, I think they were concerned about his size a little bit, but you know what? He was an explosive edge guy. And to project him back there, I mean, it's not like he was, way undersized or anything. I mean, geez, the guy was 6'3", 280. Why would you put him at linebacker? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that is something that did not work out last year, and we'll just keep an eye on DeMarcus Walker when you're taking a look at training camp for the Broncos this upcoming year. And that's just another player when you're taking a look. And again, one of the reasons we're trying to do this is to let you know that if you didn't see these guys play or didn't play much, and you're looking at the depth charts at Ourlads, keep in mind that the reason we're going over these players is because this might mean that if you think that there might be an opening at a position, well, maybe not so because of players like this that could wind up being players that teams like the Broncos will be counting on that you're not expecting. What about Brendan Langley before we move on to the next team? Third-round rookie last year, didn't get a lot of playing time. What do you think about him moving forward?
Well, I think he had to learn to be a pro. He was at a smaller school and everything, and he's learned from Chris Harris there. And again, you look at their secondary, and they don't have any free agents back there. I mean, it's been scuttlebutt about Philippe, jettison him out of there for one reason or another. But
sure.
But Langley just has to just take another step forward. And I think that then they got themselves a starting cornerback because he has all the skills. He just needs work. So I think that, and all these coaches are different. They're afraid to put a rookie in there and let them play much because one play may cost them their job. Who knows, and it's just the pressure on these coaches. It seems to get stronger and stronger every year. And, so they're not going to play a young guy, So, but Langley's got some skills, and I know they like him. So, he's going to get an opportunity, especially now too with the different packages. Teams are playing four corners out there at times, or one safety, or they got three safeties, two corners, and it's just. So he's going to get more of a chance to play.
And he's a player that ran 4.43 last year, and again came from Lamar, so he was a Georgia kid that had to go to Lamar to play. But you graded him as a fifth, sixth round kid, and the Broncos took him in the third round. Okay, well now let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's all about Patrick Mahomes. That's what everybody's going to be looking at. What do you think? What are you thinking about? Because I know you were surprised. Some people were, and I'm sure you were shocked when the Chiefs moved up to get him 10th overall. What do you think? Because, the bottom line, at least for Mahomes, is that he did go to the right coaching staff, the right coach. What are you expecting from him?
Well, we have, some really good information, guys that were practicing stuff all the time that, the coaches really like this kid because of his athletic ability. And he seemed like he did something special every practice last fall and everything. And actually, it was during, OTAs and then during preseason. Did a lot of good things. And we'll see what kind of step forward he makes. Some people can get infatuated, though, with athletic ability, strong arm, doesn't mean you're going to be a great NFL quarterback. So I guess we're going to be like everybody else, got to wait and see. All the, things look good, looks promising and things, but we're just going to have to see when he plays the big boys now, and not just preseason games. And, in the little time that he's played, he has done some good things. He turned the ball over and then he made a touchdown, So,
Sure.
It's just like, what rookies do. So now it's going to be his team, and we're going to have to see what he can do. And he got a running game behind him, with Hunt, and he's got there's no free agents up in the front line now. They got everybody's veterans and signed up front. So, we'll see what he can do. No excuses now.
Yeah, you're one of the things that you thought that you said that he had to do is get his mechanics straight. And that's basically, I'm sure, what they worked on for the past year. So now it's about translating the mechanics out into real speed, and maybe that's part of the reason they wanted to get him out there and have him start a game at the end of the season last year.
Yeah, absolutely. They knew that they were going to jettison Alex Smith, so they had to see what they can do, and now Alex Smith is going to be a Redskin here in about another, 10 days or so.
All right, at the receiver position, Jehu Chesson was a fourth-round pick. He didn't really get in on any action much at all last year, and maybe kind of surprising considering it's not a very top-level receiving unit. But Demarcus Robinson did. Now, he's a fourth-rounder from the previous year, 2016. He made 8 starts. What about both Demarcus Robinson and Jehu Chesson moving forward for the receivers for the Chiefs?
Well, Demarcus Robinson had tremendous talent at Florida, but he was a character guy. He had real character problems, which when John Dorsey was there, didn't have a problem drafting him. Now Peters has been sent out of there, traded out of there, and they still got Tyreek Hill. and they got Robinson, and so we'll see how they come along. But Robinson has got talent. I mean, as does Hill, obviously, but I mean, Robinson has real talent, and if he keeps his nose clean, he's going to have a chance to start because he'll compete with Chris Conley, and really when those guys came out of school a year apart, you probably would have taken Robinson. Conley was a big workout guy at the combine and all that stuff, but Robinson's probably going to make a move ahead of him. So, but then Chesson, he's one of those kind of guys that he had a really good junior year at Michigan, and then his senior year he was coming off. He got injured, and it took him a while to get going again. But I mean, he's got a lot of talent. He just a lot of it isn't natural to him, and I think you'll see a better player this year because he's just kind of learning still, how to be a pro and how to do things. And I can't remember what country he's from, but like he's from another country and didn't really play American football and stuff, real early in his career or anything. So, but he's got talent. I tell you, he's got a guy that go down and kickoffs and things like that, and cover. Good football player, but he just has to, learn the NFL way.
Yeah, and he's going to get an opportunity definitely on that team to break into the lineup. Robinson, by the way, as you said in your write-up, in 2016, you mentioned, of course, that he only dropped 2.7% of his targeted passes, which is pretty damn good. But you also mentioned he's a high-risk, high-reward player. So right now he is doing his job, but he's got to stay clean. Let's talk about Reggie Ragland. The player that the Chiefs were able to get from Buffalo, the second-round pick in 2016 for the Bills, made 10 starts for the Chiefs last year. What about Ragland moving forward? Some games I watched, he looked like he made an impact. I saw him make a couple of big hits a few times.
Yeah, he just really didn't fit in the scheme up there anymore. And, of course, the first year he was out, at Buffalo. He was injured, and we didn't see anything. And then with the new coaching staff coming in there and things, that they wanted a little different type of guy in there that can cover and things like that better than Ragland can. Ragland's really a run player, two-down run player, but, he can cover depending on what you ask him to do. And so, it was a good pickup, obviously, for Kansas City because Ragland wasn't going to be able to contribute up at Buffalo. They brought him in, and he's going in there to start. And like I said, he did play 10 games and showed some pretty good things.
All right, next up. And look, you are talking about SEC Defensive Player of the Year for Alabama. So coming into the draft, that's saying something. All right, one more player on Kansas City before we move on, and that is the Passignon kid from Villanova. Not a surprise that he didn't get in a lot of reps, but he was a second-round draft pick. And this was a guy that I guess we kind of expected that he could go a little bit higher based on his measurables and the wow factor. But what do you think about his potential moving forward as a developmental player?
Well, I mean that's what he is. To draft him in the second round was pretty strong. You know, I mean he's a linear guy. He got those long legs, and he's not hard to move off the line. And, he wasn't a dominant player at Villanova, and that bothers me when a guy's, 6'7" and 280, and you're not making people to live across from you. You know what I mean? You got to be a world beater, and especially heading into the NFL. So I think that again, this will be a big year for him to see if he takes that next step forward. They're going to, and he may be a victim of playing, the wrong position, kind of like Walker in that scheme, because they got him playing as an outside linebacker in that 3. Although, in fairness, every team's got a 4-3 package and a 3-4 and all, and so, but they got him lined up, as an outside linebacker in a 3-4, and that certainly isn't him, but that's where they've got him placed right now, and he's a passer. Well, here's the other thing. See, I think when he came out, what I thought he was going to be is an anchor end and not a pass rusher. He'd be an anchor 4-3 end. You know what I mean? The left end, in a 4-3 scheme, and and then bulk him up and just go ahead, play technique and skate down the line, and and just keep things square and all that. But because I really don't think he's going to be a big time pass rusher.
All right, let's go now over to the Chargers. And I know this is a player that a lot of fantasy fans are going to want to know about. I was even asked this question during our fantasy shows this past year, and that's Mike Williams, the 7th overall pick of last year's draft that the Chargers took on. We knew Phillip Rivers finally needed to get himself some receivers to help him. Of course, Keenan Allen bounced back after the injury-riddled season the year before. And Williams is a player that didn't get in a lot of action, but did play a little bit. But this is a guy with a whole lot of ability, and not just, he was your top-ranked receiver ahead of Corey Davis. And just watching him, especially on the big stage, a couple of national championship games, this is the type of physical receiver that you're looking for. And as long as he stays healthy, this is a player to watch next year, right?
Absolutely, and that was a sticky wicket. That's he was injured last year, and so he didn't get to play much until late in the year, and then he's still learning. He's learning the system and learning the routes, and working with Phillip Rivers and all that. So it's and they've got Keenan Allen. You never know when the next injury is going to happen on him.
Sure.
So. They got a beat up group out there. They stay healthy. They should be pretty good, and Williams should fit in that rotation or be in the 3-man, wide receiver group when they hit the field. So pack in the sub packages. So I think they're going to be counting on Mike Williams to be a starter. They'll probably move him over there opposite Allen, really.
And he could, but really, he could be a 1,000-yard receiver next year, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
That's how good he is. Yeah.
Yep.
Especially with Phillip Rivers. And interesting that they have your number one rated receiver from 2017 and your number one tight end from 2016, Hunter Henry, who went in the second round that year. And I think the only reason that Hunter Henry hasn't really continued to blossom, I know he's been dinged a little bit, besides that, is having Antonio Gates on the field. That Phillip Rivers just continues to look at him. And I don't even know. I haven't heard anything about whether Antonio has he retired yet. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
The rumor is, that he is going to retire, but maybe sometimes you just have to retire those guys, and they keep thinking they can play. And Gates' aging time has got him. He came in the league in 15 years ago in 2003, so he's about had it.
Yeah, go to the Hall and be one of the best of all time, which he was as a tight end. But Hunter Henry, if he stays healthy, he could also be a major impact tight end in the NFL, couldn't he, even next year?
Oh, absolutely. Great hands, runs good routes, and he has to keep, getting better as a blocker and things, but he's not afraid or anything like that. He just, he's a receiver and a real weapon for Phillip Rivers.
All right, talk about the offensive line, which has always been an issue for the Chargers for as long as we can remember. Last year they were a little bit better, and they did bring in a couple of rookies last year. Unfortunately, Forrest Lamp never made it. He got injured, so hopefully he'll be able to return to the field okay. And then you have Dan Feeney, who had 9 starts in the last 9 games, so he was able to see some action. The third-round pick last year. And then Spencer Pulley, who was an undrafted kid a couple of years ago, actually started 16 games at center. So what do you think about the future of the offensive line with those 3?
Well, we got to see what Lamp can do, because he was, a left tackle in college, and he was projected to go inside. Then he got hurt right away. And but they're projecting again to get in there at right guard. And Feeney, I think he may slide right in there with Slauson being. I always liked Slauson as a backup rotate guy that could fill in and start as needed. Tough kid, could play center, could play either guard spot, things like that. But he's a free agent right now, or unrestricted free agent. So Dan Feeney, I think, will slide in that left guard spot. And but they're going to have to draft. They'll be drafting some more offensive linemen, because their depth is almost non-existent with all those free agents they got.
Yeah, and it's not that Spencer Pulley had a great season, but all things considered, getting him as an undrafted player Is that still a position you think that they should need to upgrade, or do you think they can get by with a Spencer Pulley?
Well, I tell you, Feeney may move right in there because he was a heck of a center,
Okay.
at Indiana, and they had moved him to guard and things. So, well, I mean, he's played everything in there. Let's put it that way. Now, he was an All-American at guard, but he does have some experience at center, and he has got experience at tackle. But so, I mean, that might be a possibility. They may put Feeney back in there at center. But if not, I tell you, I really think there's some good ones in this draft that could go out there and start for them. So I think there's really got some real depth at the center position. Center, guys that can play guard too, but have started at center for their college teams.
All right. Now, what do you think about the impact that Trevor Williams had? How surprising was that? Undrafted in 2016, and he had a really strong year for the Chargers, as did fifth-round rookie Desmond King, who you liked a whole lot, and it was kind of surprising that he lasted to the fifth round, but he got in on 4 starts. But Trevor Williams was actually the big story.
Yeah, no, he was a guy that here he came out and had his opportunity because there were some injuries and things, like Brett was always injured and things, and so he went in and got his chance and showed what he could do. So now he's going to be and then different packages, he got playing time. So no, Trevor Williams, that was a real good find for the Chargers.
All right, moving on. Let's finish the AFC West with Oakland, and John Gruden is there. Let's talk about some of these players on offense first. The right tackle position. That's a position. Do you think that's a position that they need to upgrade? Newhouse is just a body right now. They drafted David Sharp in the 4th round last year. He didn't get in on too much action. You think a guy like David Sharp would you trust that David Sharp could start for them, and that's a position that the Raiders don't have to worry about?
Well, I'll tell you, to me, Newhouse was always a revolving door. You know what I mean? He was a turnstile out there, no matter where he played, whether it was the Giants or, he just, but so, yeah, I mean, Sharp, at least he got some playing time this year. Penn was hurt, things like that. So Sharp got some playing time, but I think that, he certainly will have a chance, getting over at right guard, right tackle. And then because they just need the rest of that offensive line is pretty darn good.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
They got to get that right tackle finished up, and Gruden, I guarantee you, he'll be crying for an offensive lineman there. If he as soon as he doesn't think that those guys can do it, then he's going to get somebody else in there. So he doesn't wait. He doesn't give anybody any chances. If you screw up once, you're going to be out of there. So it's just. But yeah, and there'll be. I think there's probably some more right tackle type guys in this draft than left tackles. So
okay.
Well, I know there is.
All right. Then over on defense, Conley was their 1st-round pick last year, and he only got in on a couple of games early before he got hurt. What do you think about him, and as well as Melifonwu, the safety that was taken in the 2nd round? He only got in on 1 start. So their their top 2 picks didn't really get to play too much. What do you think about their futures there, though, between Conley and Melifonwu?
Yeah, I think if they feel like Melifonwu could play free safety, he'll probably make that move over to free safety. I mean, he's a big, rangy guy that was, as you recall, was a big workout guy at the combine, and last year, I mean, he racked up big numbers and all that stuff. And then, with Reggie Nelson and McGill being unrestricted guys. And one thing you want to keep in mind, John Gruden likes veterans. He doesn't like rookies. He doesn't like young guys. He's not going to develop young guys. He's going to play. He'll bring in a veteran that might be a step slow, but knows what he's doing, rather than play a rookie that's a great athlete like Melifonwu. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But I think Conley's a really good player. He just, like I said, he was injured last year, and then coming into the draft, he had some off the field stuff that had to be cleaned up, and I think that might took away from him a little bit. But I think Conley is definitely a player, and he should be okay in that position. But they got to get another corner. Got Travis Carey, that's a free agent there, and then the safety position they got to get cleaned up. And if they move Follow with a free safety, then I think they got a chance.
All right. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, up front, you've got Ward, who was a second-round pick in 2016. So far, things haven't worked out for him. Matter of fact, Trevon Hester, their seventh-round pick last year, actually played more than Ward did, even though they played different positions. And really, if you look at it, the two rookies, Hester and Vanderdoes, played a lot. What do you think about first of all the nice story that Hester got in and played a little bit, and of course Vanderdoes seemed to have a pretty decent rookie season.
Yeah, no, I think that Vanderdoes he's really a tough kid, as is Hester, and Hester was nicked up and he couldn't really do much. He's supposed to play with us in the East West. He was there at practice all week, but he couldn't do it because he was taking care of a foot injury. But no, that was really good. It surprised me that Ward went in the second round, though. I mean, he's a big, good-looking kid, and but boy, I tell you what, it really. I thought they took him a little bit early, but anyway, he's got some talent, and now Gruden's going to be screaming and yelling, and if this kid doesn't get with it, he's gone. I'll just tell you right now.
All right. Meanwhile, another player that played a lot was a rookie who went undrafted, Nicholas Morrow at linebacker. Matter of fact, he played more than the fifth-round rookie Marquel Lee. And also Shalik Calhoun, who was a third-round draft pick in 2016, hasn't so far advanced. So what about those three young players, including Morrow, who seemed to get in on a lot of playing time that it was pretty unexpected?
Yeah, no, he did. And the reason is, though, guys like Corey James, he was injured, but it doesn't matter. Hey, if you get your chance,
yep.
To show what you can do, and then, Calhoun, he was injured early, but hey, free agent like James Cowser, who played with us in the East West, he moved ahead of him, and he's been that real steady guy, and he's been great on special teams, and as long as Bruce Irvin's there to rush the passer, he's probably going to stay there, but they're not too far away from having a pretty good defensive front. And if Calhoun, if he's played in the right spot, he's not really a linebacker. I mean, he was kind of built like one, but what he is a pass rusher. So they got to get him in there, on the sub packages to bring heat, and make, hopefully he'll be healthy.
Are you surprised that Dexter McDonald played a lot last year as a seventh-round pick in 2015, the corner?
No, because he's a real smart guy. He's a guy that's understands the game. He's a quick study, and the reason he played a lot is because Conley was injured, who was playing ahead of him.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But again, it doesn't matter. Hey, the guy played, got experience, and he was a kid out of Kansas that I thought that he had talent, but you didn't know much about it because of the team being so bad, and things. But he can run, and he's athletic, and he showed what he could do.
All right, let's go to the NFC West, and we'll go with Arizona first. And the Cardinals, they're definitely looking for a quarterback now that Palmer's done. And Gabbert got an opportunity to play a little bit. He had his moments, but now we've got a new coaching staff. So I fear for Gabbert. I think we've seen the last of him. I think his best chance was having Arians around. So this is a team that will definitely have a new quarterback. I don't know exactly where they're going to find him, free agency or the draft. So that's something to keep an eye on. Sticking on offense, Chad Williams was a third-round pick last year for Arizona, and this was a developmental kid, though, so he did get on a start. What do you think about his chances of developing next year?
Well, he was a character kid he had some problems off the field, and I was surprised. For some reason, Arizona takes more than their share of those guys, and they don't ever really do anything, AKA Robert Namichi, you know.
Yeah.
But Williams is the big thing was he was fast. I mean, that's what he is. He's good size and he's fast, and you know, but now it may be his year because you know you look at their depth chart and all their unrestricted free agents: Jaron Brown, John Brown, Britton Golden. You know, Fitzgerald said he's going to play another year, but they've got a lot. They're going to have a lot of holes, and Williams have this chance to play, and
Yep.
you know he steps up. You know, we'll see. But like I said, it takes him a while to learn stuff, so we'll see. And then, of course, obviously, we talked about briefly quarterback, or you
Yeah.
did, and hey, those are guys that are all unrestricted free agents, so I would expect them to bring in a free agent quarterback. Now,
Sure.
you know, whoever that may be, you know, who knows? I don't think they're going to put out, you know, the big money for Cousins, but I think they're going to bring in a veteran and then draft one. So, I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and who knows too? But I mean, I haven't heard anything yet on Bridgewater. So we know Keenum's available, but we don't know about Bridgewater yet. I mean, I haven't heard anything yet. So
Right.
I wonder whether or not he would be available. It is possible. And
Right.
you know, that's a kid that you do take a chance on, but you definitely draft another quarterback, so that's for sure. So
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, hey, I you know, I just don't understand if they, you know, if they think that Cousins is, you know, head and shoulders above Keenum. I mean,
I
Keenum
know.
didn't.
I know.
He
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, if you're going to pay out the nose,
Yeah.
especially for Cousins, I don't think I'd do that.
No.
But anyway.
Neither would I, and I'm a Jet fan, so I'm not real happy about some of the rumors, but I'll keep my fingers crossed. The tight end position, Troy Nicholas isn't really emerged yet as a second-round pick from 2014, but he did get his most starts last year. 11 of his 18 career starts was last year. You know, he's a good receiver. I guess he still has a shot. And you have another kid that got a start last year, Ricky Seals-Jones, who went undrafted. So, what do you think about either of those guys? Are you surprised Nicholas hasn't been able to take off yet?
Yeah, I am, and but it depends how they play. They have so many tight ends that they play. Because that Momot kid, you know, that he looks the part, and he got some playing time. And then, you know, Ricky Seals-Jones was a wide receiver at Texas A&M, and you know, people thought he was way out of position and things like that as a wide receiver. But hey, sign him as a tight end and develop him there. I mean, he was I think coming out of college, he was 245 or something like that, and so. You know, now he's at the position that, and with all these packages, again, you stick him in the slot, and here's a big matchup guy that is tough to defend. So, but Nicholas, you know, you kind of want to see him step up to the plate by now. He's been in the league since 2014, you know, and he has good size, but he's probably more of a blocker. So, you know, if they keep him around or offer him, you know, low money because he's a free agent or unrestricted free agent, then you know he's coming as a blocker, but not as a receiver.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem is he hasn't really developed into a really good blocker yet. So that's a position that we could see Arizona, unless they feel. Look, again, you got a new staff in there, but if they feel that Nicholas is ready to take a next step, they still have Gresham, right?
Yep.
Still around?
Yep.
Yeah. So
yep, he's still there.
They could definitely do better than that. All right. So DJ Humphries, by the way, injured his knee, so he only got in on 5 starts last year at right tackle, the first-round pick from 2015, but he really hasn't developed anyway. And John Wetzel wound up playing and getting in on the action when Humphries went down. Matter of fact, Wetzel started 19 games. And an undrafted kid out of Dallas a few years ago. And then you have Evan Baum, who was a 4th-round pick in 2016 and played right guard, 8 starts last year. Will Holden, we talked a lot about him last year, 5th-round kid. But all these guys really did struggle. Humphries played okay until his injury, but now you just don't know what to expect, especially from a knee injury. So this is a position that really they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, they're not going to get it in the draft either because there's not any left tackles that I would hang my hat on, you know, coming out. So there'll be some functional ones, guys that can get in the way and stuff like that. But I don't, in regards to being that franchise left tackle, there's none in this draft.
All right, and then we take a look at the defensive side of the ball, and boy, they were expecting Brandon Williams to take the big step from the transition from offense to defense, and they took him in the third round in 2016. After 3 starts his rookie year, he did not even start last year. So that's become, so far it looks like it's become a bust of a pick, and that's not really the type of spot, the third round, that you want to be taking guys and moving them in positions and project type situations.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know. Some people try to think that they're smarter than they are
Yeah.
instead of just being,
Sure.
instead of just fundamentally just go along at a steady pace. You don't have to worry about thinking you're the next genius, because what happens is, you start believing those clippings, and you go, and the NFL is kind of like golf, your next swing, it can stick you in the water and cost you a tournament. And the thing is, you take the guy and you try to transform him into something he's not. You think he can be. Well, that's the death of everything.
How did you? What was your analysis on him coming out? What did you think about where he should go, and what kind of a player he was going to be as a pro, Brandon Williams?
Well, that was $1 million question. I tell you, I'm trying to think where he's on the depth chart right now.
He probably isn't very high, that's for sure, because again, he didn't even start a game last year. So
yeah.
It wasn't look, that's what I'm saying. I mean, when you heard about was that like a logical move though for him to? I mean, you didn't grade him. I mean, if you take a look at your guides, let's keep this in mind perspective. When you put your guides together, you have so many players that you can only write up so many for each position. And then you go ahead and you have this list of about 5 or 10 players that you just put their names in because you just can't fit them. And they're really not, okay, they're okay. Maybe they'll get drafted on, maybe they're undrafted priority free agents, basically is what that list is. He was a priority free agent list in your category for you. And yet Arizona took him in the third round.
Yeah. I mean, that's not, and you know what? We track that every so often. You know what we do? Then we find out that they're not. They end up being non-players. You know what I mean? And it happens every year like that. And but like I said, Williams was an athletic kid, and that was it. But he was well, they took him in the third round, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they took him in the third round, and he just. I mean, I don't know why teams do that. They think, like I said, and that's the first guy that they did it with in Arizona. I mean, they've had quite a few other guys that they, brought in and tried to change them around. And that stuff doesn't work. And I don't know how long it takes you to figure that out. But but anyway.
By the way, on the flip side, Olsen Pierre, who went undrafted out of Miami. Made 7 starts and had a pretty good year. He actually played better than Kimdichie, the first-round pick in 2016, who's yet to start a game, by the way. He did play better last year, Kimdichie, we will say that, but he's still, of course, you draft a guy first round, you better be an impact player, and he's anything from that.
Pro Bowl guy. Yep.
No, when that's not the case. But Olsen Pierre actually played pretty well for them, making 7 starts. So is that a player that you recall a whole lot of coming out of Miami?
Well, what he is a big anchor type end. Who, to me, that he's in the right scheme right now. He's not a pass rusher. He's not actually. He kind of is that guy that is the left end in a 4-3 or be a 5 technique in the 3-4.
Okay.
And that's what he's playing. And he's playing the left defensive end there, and unless there's going to be a wholesale change, now they're a 4-man front. They're a 4-man front at Carolina, and their head coach Wilkes was a defensive coordinator, so there may be a big overhaul in that defensive front,
That's
or
true.
our defense.
That's true.
So, but anyway, no, Pierre, he's a journeyman, a real solid guy. And the guy behind him, Xavier Williams, again, is, a real solid, which will, hey, the 4-3 would be fine for Williams, too, because he can be one of those defensive tackles. No, Pierre did, he was just a journeyman that did a real steady job.
All right, next up are the Rams, and Goff finally had his moment last year to prove everybody that he was warranted for that top pick. And you know what it took, though? It took a coach change. It took the right coach, McVay, to get in there. And how often do we see that? Who knows what would have happened to Jared Goff's career had he not had the right coach? So Goff so that's and that's also good, I guess. So because this is a player that came from that what was it, Texas air raid type offense.
Right. That was the Bear Raid out there.
The Bear Raid,
yes.
Because
they were the Bears.
Yes.
So they call it the Bear Raid. Yep, exactly.
So it worked out, and we'll see what kind of career he has. Cooper Kupp, we talked a lot about him last year, and he came on and did a valuable job for them. So we're not surprised at all about what he did, and we can imagine he's going to have a nice career ahead of him. What about the two tight ends, Higbee and Everett? You were very surprised, did not think Everett should have gone in the second round, and sure enough, he only started a couple of games, didn't play all that well. It's not that Higbee played all that well either, but he was a fourth-round pick, but he was the guy that actually started all season. But now that's a position that the Rams organization itself has used a couple of higher picks at that position for the last couple of years, and it hasn't worked out so far. And I don't expect that it really will. They probably need to go out and get another tight end soon.
Yeah, I tell you, it surprised me that Higbee even went in the fourth round. He at Western Kentucky, he really did some good things. Got a man playing with boys at times, but he didn't have great speed, and he was always injured. And then Everett, for him to go in the second round, it depends now, I guess, if you want to play him, which obviously McVay didn't. They thought they might have seen like a Reed from Washington, that type of receiver, but they never got that out of him. And Hemingway, and they take that guy in the sixth, and I want to tell you, that was a wasted pick. I guarantee you that. I couldn't believe that one. So no, they might have to. They could cut, probably four of those guys and just start over, maybe five of them. So that's a really weak spot for the Rams.
And this is a very good draft for tight ends. There are like 7-8 tight ends that you could be real happy with. And that there are going to be a couple even available, you would think, in the third and fourth round that could end up starting.
Oh, absolutely. And no, this is a very good group. They got some size on them, and they got some athletic ability, and they can block. And most of them, though, are the receiving end of it, I guess. Like Jasicki, for instance, he's got to get some ballast to him, but you can flex him out, and he can catch the ball and stuff. And he'd probably be better than any of the six they got on their roster.
Surprised that Samson Ebukam, got in and played a little bit, did a decent job. Fourth round pick last year for the Rams. Not a major player for them, but he did get in on some action and got an opportunity to play and perform pretty well.
Yeah, and hopefully he learned from Connor Barwin that position, because the reason Barwin was brought in there, is because of Phillips had him before, and he knew that spot, and so and Barwin was a great warrior in his day, but the age and time catches up with all those guys, and so he may be able to be ready to make that move into that outside linebacker spot for the Rams.
All right, and then John Johnson, the third round pick last year, made 11 starts and had a very good rookie season for the Rams. Surprised how well he played?
No, I tell you what, no, we liked him a lot, and so he moved in there, and smart guy, and I think now, though, with they got Joyner that's a free agent, and I guess Tremaine Johnson, I guess they might be franchising him now that, but here's the thing, though. Well, they may not because, trading for Peters.
That's right.
They got Peters now, and I think Webster's got some talent on the other side, but hey, you can't have enough corners in the National Football League, so we'll see what happens there. But no, I thought Johnson did a really nice job at safety, and then Joyner, he's always undersized, but really a good football player.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's up too. So, but yes, Johnson was a big plus for them.
Yeah, if the Rams can't afford for whatever reason to bring to hold on to Joyner, that's a player you want because he's really starting to develop. Had a really, excellent career at FSU, making some big plays on the national stage. A couple more teams to go. San Francisco. How good do you think Garoppolo can be? Of course, everybody's going crazy because he hasn't lost a game, and coming from New England and all this, and who knows what happened over there with this trade. But how good do you think Garoppolo could be? Is the sky the limit for him, or are people getting a little bit carried away?
Well, he was salted away and played behind the best quarterback in maybe the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
So, and when he got to play last year, I thought it was crazy. I don't know if you recall this, but remember when they brought him in and said, well, he probably won't play this year?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't until Beathard got hurt. Yeah, remember? He wasn't prepared. He's not ready to play. Yeah.
Well, apparently the coaches weren't ready or prepared because when they put him in there, he threw lasers just like he did in all the preseason games and when he did get to play a little bit at New England. So, no, I think Garoppolo will be a Pro Bowl player. They've got to keep getting players around him, but they got to protect him so he doesn't get annihilated like Andrew Luck, But they got some veterans up there. Daniel Kilgore's re-signed, and he's a veteran guy, and we'll see what they do with Fusco up there. I was always scared of Trent Brown. I still can't believe Trent Brown starting in this league because he was a mess to me at Florida. But he's a big wide body guy. And that's probably what's going to save Orlando Brown this year because Orlando is, he's all over the place too. And I got him way too high in my own mind, but there's no tackles out there. And at least he's a cab ride around just like Trent Brown is. That's the only redeeming value there, but I still can't believe Trent Brown is starting at right tackle. But then, Laken Tomlinson, who was acquired in a trade. Now, Joe Staley, love Joe Staley, but he's getting some age on him. But, man, he's a war dog. So if those guys, if they can get a good, a cohesive group up there, I tell you, and I'd like to see them get some more receivers and some more quality receivers. But no, I think Garoppolo can be in the Pro Bowl next year.
Yeah, and one guy that was disappointing for them in his rookie season was your top-rated guard in 2016, Garnett from Stanford. He did not have a good year, but he didn't get a chance to play with the new staff with the injury to his knee. So we'll see. The jury's still out on him. And Brieda actually beat out Joe Williams, the fourth-round rookie running back, who ended up with an ankle injury and didn't play last year. But Brieda was going to wind up beating him out anyway, on the depth chart. So Brieda is a guy to keep an eye on, especially depending on what to do with Hyde. Nobody knows what they're going to do with Hyde. There's a 50-50 chance at this point in time that they're going to bring Hyde back. So we'll find out what they do there. Trent Taylor and George Kittle also played pretty well for them as fifth-round rookies.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the thing is about Britta, now there's a perfect example. They had a coaching change at Georgia Southern, and the kid was really a good football player as a junior.
Yep.
They had a coaching change, and, he was just kind of a guy, and nothing special or anything, when he was a senior, and he was signed as a free agent because he ran pretty good, and, then he did some really good things, and, if Joseph Williams, though, is healthy, I think that, he's got a chance to do something, and the rest of those backs, to me, are too small. McNichols, and, he's small, and Mostert was another fast guy that's small, and, Brett is not big, for any stretch match, so they might need another big back, also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if they let Hyde go, they definitely need to draft a running back, and there are going to be some good ones available, as we talked about. On defense, you have, I mean, Solomon Thomas was the third overall pick. He did a good job, against the run, and probably needs a little bit work, overall. But hey, you know what? For a rookie, he did a solid job. He looks like he's going to have a nice career ahead of him. And Armstead is there. Buckner had a big year. So that's a promising defensive line, and as we talked about, unfortunately, with Reuben Foster, who played really well in his 10 starts, he gets arrested, and who knows? He's probably going to miss at least half the season next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody that you knew you couldn't depend on him, and you took him because late in the first round, his talent warranted him going earlier in the first round, but. It is what it is, and hey, who knows? His career may be over before it gets started.
That is a very good defensive line on paper, though, and really from what we've seen on the field in Armstead, Thomas, and Buckner, isn't it?
Oh yes, and I tell you what, Earl Mitchell is a good football player in there too, a veteran guy there. But no, I mean Buckner is everything we thought he was going to be. We had him way up there, and then Armstead's actually playing better.
Yeah.
Than he did at Oregon. And then, of course, Solomon Thomas was always, that real solid guy there at Stanford, came out as a junior. But so, no, I think that front group is really strong. And then I tell you what, Ronald Blair now, who's behind Thomas, is a good player.
Sure.
When he got a chance to play, he did a lot of good things. And they brought Sheldon Day in, they picked him up from Jacksonville after he was waived, but he can do certain things. Cassius Marsh was another kid that was really tough at UCLA. He had some injury things. He's up there at Seattle, and so their defensive line. Tank Carradine, he was injured. He never really.
No.
Maybe he never came on to be what I thought he was going to be. But you know what? Maybe if in this scheme, he'll end up. Maybe he can end up being a defensive end and backing up and rotating. But he's a free agent, unrestricted guy, so we'll have to see what they do there.
Yeah, Eli Harold's another former third-round pick that just has never developed for them, even though he started 24 times in the last 2 years, but he hasn't been an impact player. But in the secondary, their third-round pick last year and their seventh-round pick last year both did a really solid job in the secondary. Witherspoon, he made 9 starts, and Adrian Colbert actually did a pretty good job back there. Of course, Tart, who was a second-round pick in 2015, he's starting to develop finally as well into a pretty good player. So that's also a pretty promising secondary.
Yeah, their defense, like I said, they got a few things to plug and clean up, but bring a little more youth into the linebacker situation. But yeah, they sometimes, like I said, it's a scheme. Like Eli Harold, to me, was never really a Sam linebacker, but that's what they got him playing because he's not that big, and he can get over engulfed at times and things. But sometimes like we've talked about before, there's horses for courses.
Are you surprised that Colbert, 7th-round pick, had some success as a rookie last year?
No, because anybody that's got desire to play and is highly competitive, they always got a chance. So I think that that's where his talent lies.
Okay. All right. Lastly, the final team is Seattle, and the rookie that could have been the biggest rookie to make an impact for them got hurt. The running back Chris Carson. And this just shows you once again, I mean, how many years do we – I mean, it seems like every year there's 1 or 2 running backs that don't get drafted that actually make an impact. And this is a player that hopefully when he comes back from his injury could wind up being the starter next year for Seattle. I don't know if they can count on that, though. They probably should go out and definitely draft another running back just in case, but because they can't have the same situation they had last year when Carson got hurt, and they just did nothing in that backfield. And of course, it kind of hurts when your offensive line's putrid.
Oh yeah, the offensive line for years now. I don't know. I hope Seattle doesn't screw the new offensive line coach like the Giants did last year. Mike Solari is their offensive line coach, and he's got. He's a great offensive line coach. He was there before, and their offensive line was tremendous. But it was a train wreck. The last, they were drafting guys that I wouldn't draft in a million years, like, Sambo, who from Boise State, who's okay. He's always injured and everything. So what's the first thing that happens? He's injured. Why do you take guys like that? And it's just like
third round.
It's just like I have no idea what they're doing, And then Ifedi, he wasn't a first round guy. He looks the part, and he's a guard, and the Giants didn't do anything to help Solari out. Like all he had to do is kind of piece the offensive line together, and they end up doing decent at times for no talent. And then now they got like I said, a mess over in Seattle that hopefully he can get cleaned up because there's a little bit of talent there with Posick, who was drafted in 17, a second-round guy, and then Britt is a guy to get out of center, I think. Or if they do, then they just got Jokels. He might have had it by now. Brown, he was better than what they had. I never liked Oshubi. They've got a real mess up there. Yes. But I tell you what, Mike's a great offensive line coach, and if he can make chicken salad out of chicken crap, I guess.
All right. Meanwhile, another rookie that played well for him last year was their third-round pick. One of their third-round picks, they had a lot of them, and that was Shaquille Griffin, the corner. His brother's coming out, of course, this year. So he did well. They had three other guys, though, that didn't really make an impact. So what do you think about their futures? Darboh, the receiver from Michigan. Delano Hill, the safety from Michigan. And Nazir Jones, another third-rounder, who played the most out of those three and did a decent job in some of the time he got. What about those three guys?
Yeah, no, I think Hill would be fine. Cam Chancellor he may not be around. And then McDougal probably won't be around. He was brought in there and he's an unrestricted guy, and I don't know, if they'll bring him, but Hill, the thing is, they always think that it takes so much time to learn their secondary packages and stuff like that. And so, now that there's a new defensive coordinator there, and even though he's going to run the same stuff, maybe we'll see improvement, out of Hill. And really all those guys that like Nazir Jones, he should step it up. McDowell was hurt all year. I don't know where he's been, but he was banged up right away, got in a car accident.
Yep.
He didn't do anything. So those two guys those two inside guys should be better. But hey, you don't know. And then I think the rumor is that they're going to resign Sheldon Richardson. So that should help at least in their front, but to rotate those guys that they drafted in 17 up there, McDowell and Jones should play better.
And Jaron Reed also, by the way, who was you had projected as a first rounder in 2016 from Alabama. He's actually doing a pretty good job for him too. So they've got a lot of talent there if everybody's healthy and so forth and so on. So
right.
No reason to think that Seattle couldn't be it. But look, that's the thing. They're a talented team. The offensive line is killing them. It's absolutely killing everything for that team. And
they better hope it doesn't kill number 3,
yeah,
Russell Wilson, or he may be swinging for home runs there with the Yankees.
All right, Dan, appreciate it. I'll let you go. I know you're busy this time of year. We'll go on and talk more next week.
Great, Greg. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. All right, that's Dan Shonka. And that is, by the way, next week, what are we going to do next week? Let me see. Who do we have next week? We have 4 straight weeks of these divisions. Next week is we got the AFC and NFC South divisions. Then the North and the East. And our mock draft special is going to be on the 28th. So that's our first mock draft. we're going to have our final mock draft the week before the draft. So we always wait at least a couple of weeks after free agency, the combine, and all that before we come out with our first mock draft here on our show. Of course, Dan's got his mock draft. Don't forget the mock draft challenge. That's on the website at Ourlads.com, so you can participate there. There's cash prizes for whoever wins the mock draft challenge at Ourlads.com, so don't forget about that. And we also have our off-season previews, content, and all sorts of other scouting information that's available at Ourlads.com. So we will see you again next Wednesday and every Wednesday all the way through to the draft at 2 Eastern right here on Our Lads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft with Dan Shonka. We'll see you next time.